What is up? Welcome to the Dynasty Show. Hammer in the building with your boy Stevie B. What's up, Hammer?
You know what we do. It's no more football, man. This is the day that I've dreaded for 6.5 months, whatever it's been. So, a sad day for us, but also a good day because now a lot of the moves start happening, a lot of, trading of draft picks, etc. I think we talked about that last week. So excited to see what the offseason brings. And the draft is virtually 2 months away. So it's not like we got a large time gap before a major, NFL date coming up. So 2 months to the draft, roughly.
Yeah, it's gonna be happening quickly. So everybody's on to the rookies. Today's show we're gonna talk about the tight ends. So we'll break them down into my rankings and tiers, and Hammer and the world out there. Y'all can pick them apart. Let me know. But yeah, I mean, tight ends is another one, kind of like running backs, where it's hard, but it's different now, where like there's a lot of relevant guys, where like compared to before, it was kind of those like top three ish, and then like whatever after that. So there's a bunch of guys kind of that are relevant, and some young guys as well. We've got some older guys that are giving you that production, but they are a little bit older. So, how do you value those guys into the rankings and tiers? And whether you're in the league already or if you're in a startup, how do you go about picking your team and picking which tight end to have? So we'll get into that today. And other than that, I mean, we're answering all questions, any dynasty questions, trades, throw them out there. We've got startups, a lot of startups nowadays. So any startup questions, you can throw those out there. We've been dropping rankings, wide receiver rankings. We'll do that next week. We'll hit up the tight ends this week, and then we've got rookies. I just posted some rookie wide receiver rankings, so we'll start talking about the rookies, wide receivers, running backs. I mean, we kind of know who the quarterbacks are. Tight ends, there's really only like two, so not much otherwise. But a lot happening soon, and it happens quick. Before we know it, the combine is here, and then before we know it, the draft is here, and a lot changes. So
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited about the tight end rankings this year. Last year was a little bit different. We had a really good crop of rookies come in. Some made an impact, some didn't. Depending on how we feel about certain guys' futures. There's a guy or two in here that I definitely want to touch on. But also, like you said, the mix of the younger up and coming tight ends with the kind of older guard that you were talking about makes for a really interesting ranking. And I'm a lot more excited about this ranking than I was the running back ranking, to be honest with you, because the running back was such a disaster just from the standpoint of, well, like we talked about, once you get past like that first and a half tier, it's like, dude, you can make up whatever you want at that point. So this tight end ranking should be pretty fun. And I think from the perspective of not only the NFL teams, but from a fantasy perspective, I feel like there's going to be a lot more relevant tight ends, right? That you
mhm,
can go out there and get, and also good value as well.
for
So it'll be
sure.
really interesting to see, where we stack up with our tight end rankings.
Yep. Jay, what's up, Jay? Appreciate you, everybody out there. What is up? But yeah, we'll get into the tight end stuff soon. Mahomes just pulls it out, takes the dub. Awesome. It was an awesome game. I mean, going into overtime. I don't really understand what this whole 49ers thing is talking about. They didn't know the rules of overtime. I don't know if you've heard that, but there's those reports coming out, and I'm like, I don't know. I
I
don't know. What do you
have
think?
What's interesting about that is that I didn't even fully understand the rules. I thought it was if San Francisco got the ball or whichever team got the ball and scored a touchdown, it was over. But it's not like that in the playoffs. It's both teams are guaranteed a possession. And then if they both score the same thing, cool. If one team kicks a field goal, then the next team scores a touchdown. Obviously, that's what happened in this Super Bowl. Then the game's over. So I wasn't aware that both teams were guaranteed a possession. Essentially, it's the college rule, right? In
Mhm.
in the NFL for the playoffs. So I actually like the rule, to be honest with you. And I
Yeah.
think, watching some of the shows over the last couple of weeks, it's beneficial to get the ball second because you know what you need to
Mhm.
get
For sure.
and you get the 4 downs. You're going for it on 4th down regardless,
Every time.
if the
Yep.
team kicks a field goal or a touchdown. So you essentially get the advantage by going second because you have 4 downs instead of 3, or have to make a decision after 3 downs, which San Francisco elected to kick the field goal. Kansas City knew they needed a score, either field goal or touchdown. So they had 4 downs pretty much the entire way up the field.
Yeah, I mean, the coaching staff has gotta, explain that. They should know that, right? The coaching staff should be digging that in. I mean, and then the ref kinda explained it too, so,
It's a brand new game. He did.
I
Yep.
mean, what more what more do you want? Whether you didn't practice it or not, like, all you had to do was listen to what the ref said, and you were good. But, anyway, I mean, yeah, once Mahomes got the ball, I knew it was over. It was over at that point. Kelsey did his thing. Rashid didn't really go off. They played a lot of, like,
It
more
was
man, and
okay.
he struggled against that. They tried to get the ball to him behind the line, at least get the ball in his hands, but, it just doesn't matter, like, they don't need anybody. They just need Mahomes, like, just give him some guys, give him
And
some Jags.
so I think that's a real point at this point. And for me, though, you need Mahomes and you need that other guy on the other side of the ball, Chris Jones. You can't
Yeah,
understate
yeah,
his impact on how he affects the game and affects that defense, right? Because let's keep
mhm.
it real. That defense was deserves just as much credit as Patrick Mahomes for making this run
Oh,
in the
yeah.
playoffs. You know what I mean? So, San Francisco has a really good offense. Obviously, we know all the weapons. Debo went out for a minute, Kittle went out for a minute, but they had their full complement for virtually the whole game. Christian McCaffrey had a really good game, but outside of that, that trick play kind of deal,
Mhm,
he really didn't kill Kansas City and gash them for large chunks at a time. I think he averaged like 3.5 yards a carry or something like that. So, um, all the credit in the world to Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and that Chiefs defense. Steve Spagnuolo wins another Super Bowl, as a D coordinator. He did that, I believe, a couple of times with the Giants in the late 2000s, early 2010. So I just I mean, I don't know how many times you could keep doing this with just another guy. Kelsey is getting older. We did talk about that, and that's going to tie into the rankings. So you're going to need
mhm.
another, kind of playmaker, go to type guy. I don't feel like you could just run it back a year later and expect the same result. So they're clearly the class of the AFC. I don't think there's any doubt about that now. There was a little bit at the end of this season with Kansas City. They had some, puzzling losses. They lost to Denver. They lost to Vegas. They lost to my Packers, right? And we didn't really expect them to lose. They didn't look good offensively, but listen, when you got 15 and Andy Reid on the sidelines, how are they not the favorite?
Mhm.
That's just how
Yeah.
I look at it.
There is a tight end I want them to go out and get, and we'll talk about it when we talk about the rankings. But, yeah, I mean, that trick play, they said shouldn't even count it. They had, like, the offensive lineman, I think, went too far downfield or something
Downfield.
like that. But, yeah, I mean, Mahomes did his thing, and somebody said something in here about KC. We'll get to that in a second. Chaotic, what up, Chaotic? What's
Mm.
good? Huss in the building. Kevin, what it do? Niners
Kev,
played
my man.
admirably. Yeah, I
It was a
mean,
good game. It was a terrible first half, but you kind of
bro.
knew that the second half was going to pick up the pace. And just one thing I want to say to all my sports betting fans and all my guys out there who bet, that over under was 47.5. And if you took the over, it finished at 47 total points. I was thinking about that when I saw, once they scored the touchdown at the end, I was like, God, like Vegas just knows how to fuck with you, right? Like I would have I tended towards the under. I had a conversation with Bagala and I was tending towards the under. I actually put money on Kansas City money line. I think they were plus 105 for the game. So I ended up putting, a few dollars on Kansas City money line. But that over under just blew my mind. 47.5, and it's right at 47. So a little interesting tidbit from the degenerate in me, I should say.
Brian, what's up, Brian? Is it foolish for me to continue to roster all of Kelsey, Kittle, Ferguson, Likely, and Hill win now roster with no glaring needs? Yeah, I mean, you never need that many tight ends, so
Ye-
yeah, I'd move them. I'd move them all. I mean, maybe you keep Ferguson or you keep Kittle. Pick who you want. I mean, Kittle probably has a little more name value, where maybe you can get more for him. You might have to just hold on to Kelsey till you die, but yeah, there's no reason to have all of those. Yeah, I mean,
Well, but because you have Ferguson, I don't think there's anything wrong with either
yeah,
trading Kelsey or Kittle, whatever you could get the most
mhm,
out of. Maybe trade them both if you want and
yeah,
upgrade your roster there. You know
for
what I
sure.
mean? So there's always ways to upgrade the roster. Um, and I would consider moving Kelsey and Kittle, especially if you have Ferguson.
Mhm. See if there's a team that can use Kittle, a little win now team. Maybe you can get a pick, or you throw something else with Kelsey and try and get some kind of first. I'd look to do that. KC proved they don't need to go and get a Mike Evans or invest in a first round wide receiver. They're going to get Tyler Boyd and Curtis Samuel and 3P. That's true as well. I mean, they're showing that they don't need to. Now, how long can Mahomes go without him, truly blowing a gasket? Because we've seen, how bad like things can get at times during the season with the wide receivers. But yeah, to be fair, they don't need much else. But Kelsey's
I
getting a
d-
little bit older, so they're gonna start to
a
need more.
playmaker,
And you
yeah,
kind of saw this game like they need more than just Rashi Rice. I'll tell you that.
yeah, for sure.
Especially if Kelsey goes. So,
Yeah,
but
listen,
yeah.
I totally think they need another playmaker. If it's Mike Evans, great. If they don't want to pay Mike Evans, if they don't want to pay wide receiver money, they could go out and get wide receiver twos and be just fine. They did it the year before with
Mhm.
Juju. So they can go out and get a Juju type guy and be comfortable, MVS and Mecole Hardman for whatever it's worth. They just do something different in the playoffs that we didn't see all season. Mecole Hardman and MVS held on to the ball, and the rest, as they say, was history.
Considering sending Kelsey and Higgins for Gibbs.
Mm.
He said he was a win now.
Yeah.
He is a win now
Yeah.
roster, so he's getting a young Gibbs.
What does
As
the rest
long
of
as you
the
have
team look like?
as long as you have like a decent core of wide receivers, then I'm okay with going to get Gibbs. Like I don't like going to buy running backs, but if you're set at your positions, then I'm okay with going to get a Gibbs. He's a guy that you can build around if you want to go that route. So I'm
I
good
feel
with
like
that if
Ryan
you
put
want to
his
get Gibbs.
team in the chat last time. If I remember, he was asking us some questions. I believe he put his team in the chat. And he was trying to make a trade with something else. I think trying to get a wide receiver or something. I don't remember.
Crispy, what up, Crispy? Mahomes didn't have to be Mahomes until the game was on the line.
He didn't have to be Mahomes this whole playoffs, really. I mean, Buffalo a little bit, but Miami didn't have to do a whole lot. Baltimore, he didn't have to do a whole lot. This game, he didn't have to go crazy, crazy. He did finish with 330 yards and two tutties, so
I don't
that's
think he threw a pick. I don't think he threw a pick. All did he throw a
he did
pick?
in the Super Bowl. He did.
Other than the Super Bowl, I'm saying in the
No,
playoffs,
no.
and they were on the road for the first time, right?
All the questions you could have thought of to try and knock Mahomes off the perch were silenced. Like there's nothing else to say. Like zero. He can go on the road. He can score 17 points and win. He could score 27 and win. He can play all these good teams. Like, I mean, outside of the Miami game, because they didn't have a chance at Buffalo, at Baltimore, against San Francisco. Like, there's nothing else to say. He's the
They
best.
said I think all the Super Bowls he won, he was down by 10 plus points every
Yep.
one.
Yep. Yep. So there you go. There's another feather in the
That's
cap.
crazy. That is crazy. He ran a little bit too when he had to.
Yes, he did. I think he was the leading rusher, if I'm not mistaken.
But he did that. He had to do that last year a little bit too on basically like one ankle.
Yeah.
Daniel Barry, what up? What up, Daniel? Mystic, would you guys give up Drake May for Higgins and Jalen Warren? No, 12-team Superflex start 11. Start 11 makes it interesting, but already have Hurts, Burrow, and Levis. Yeah, that's not enough. Levis, I'm not counting on. I'm keeping the QB, I think, there. You got Puka, Dell, Rashid, Odunze, Worthy, Wicks, Leggett. I mean, you could use some help at wide receiver, but nah, I'm probably just going to keep May. I want the QB right now. I know you got Hurts and Burrow, so you kind of feel safe there, but it is a 12 team and it is a start 11. I mean, having that advantage at QB is good. If you're going to break down May, like, I guess it's not horrible Higgins, but I don't want Warren. Like, if you want to break up May, like, it's got to be Higgins and another kind of wide receiver, like, almost in that same tier, kind of. Like, because Drake May is
And
valuable right now.
I agree. And to be quite honest with you, Mystic, like having Joe Burrow has some injury concerns. Jalen Hurts is a running quarterback. You might consider holding on to Drake May, and once the right deal comes along, like something that's really gonna move the needle as far as your wide receivers go, because Puka obviously is good. Dell coming off the injury, Rashee Rice, we know he's solid, but is Kansas City gonna go out there and get a Mike Evans, right? Get a big time veteran receiver. So I would hold on to Drake May for as long as you can until somebody comes along and blows you away, with an offer. You're just like, this is too good to pass up.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's plenty of time. There's no rush. I'm fine with trading them, like Hammer said, if that right deal comes along, but I don't feel like this isn't that right deal.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I want the running back.
You so
What's Goody song? That song. Mystic said, I'm scared he'll end up at New England instead of a decent skill position team like Washington or Atlanta. Listen, we don't know what's going to happen. There's a bunch of things can happen, but the fact that he's just a QB in general and he's a young QB, we know we don't have to see much like from these young QBs to automatically vault them up. Like if they're producing early. I mean, even wide receivers nowadays, like years ago, like it wasn't until like just a few years ago that it used to take that 3-year breakout for that wide receiver. Like now it's like we have to see it in year one or else that's it. We consider them a bust, which
for
is,
sure.
which is crazy.
And
But
that
that's
kind of goes
kind of
for
just
almost
how it's
every
been lately.
position.
That's true.
That kind of goes for almost any position because think about, and I'm not trying to be a homer, but like the first half of the season for Jordan Love, people were just like, get out. And then he put it together obviously in the second half. But if he would have kind of continued and been like a QB, 18, people would have been like, he's just another guy. Like you said, he's just another guy. So I think that that's important as well. But to Mystic's point, I have those same concerns where if he does go to New England and he's terrible, the situations matter, right? Like Zach Wilson, I know it's a bad example, but that's just like what can happen, right? Because I'm sure going into drafts, people probably drafted Zach Wilson pretty high in super flex leagues, and he turned out to be absolute trash, and his value cratered. So that is something that I would take into account. If you could move the pick before the draft and you get blown away by something, great. But if you just have to ride him out, he's still a quarterback in a super flex league that's going to be drafted in the top 3. There's going to be value to be had there. And I guess that's the most important point to consider, including where he might go. So I definitely understand the concern. And it's definitely would be a concern of mine if I was in position to take Drake May.
It seems like they drafted the rookies already because he says Odunze, Worthy,
Yeah, yeah,
Leggett.
yeah.
I mean, if you are in a startup, like yes, the rookies are there, but I wouldn't advise to do the startup with the rookies in there yet because we don't know enough yet. Now you can if you want, but I think it's just better off to just do the whole rookie draft like we've been doing, for the last few years now, where you use the kickers as picks and you can just take that pick at whatever point in time that you want in the draft. I think that's the better route to go. But I mean, I'm sure it is fun picking some of the guys now. But now you're stuck in a situation where you have Drake May, like instead of the 102 or 103, where now you have the flexibility to kind of, to do what you want with it. So,
But listen, if you have Drake May, that's not a bad,
hey,
option in a super flex league as your third quarterback. That's not a bad position
hmm
to be in, and there's tremendous value still there. So I'm cool with it. But the concern for me would be if he does go to New England, they don't have a ton of
sure.
skill there, and they're in basically a rebuild, like a full blown rebuild. That team is
hmm
not very good, and they lack offensive talent at the skill position. It's a legitimate concern.
Sure. Just got Purdy for Watson, Kyron, and
Ooh,
Cup.
is
Gave a
that
little
Christian
too
Watson
much, but I wanted Purdy. Christian
or
or Deshaun
Deshaun?
Watson? I'm not sure. If it's Deshaun, I mean, I guess I'm a I guess it's a little much, but not at the same time. I mean, it's a running back, an old wide receiver, and a quarterback whose value just isn't very high right now.
I do think you could have broken it down and maybe not had to reach for a Purdy, maybe go
Deshaun.
get yourself a Jared Goff, and then
It was Deshaun.
and Deshaun, right? So you're giving up Deshaun. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Brock Purdy, um, but listen, the numbers are undeniable at this point over the course of 2 seasons. I know obviously he got hurt at the end of last year, but QB6, 4,200 yards, 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Not a ton with the legs, but the guy has all the skill position guys around him. The Ayuk situation will be interesting. Kittle's getting a little bit older. Debo's a little bit older. They're gonna have to start to pay a ton of people. So I'm not going to poo-poo it per se, but I feel like there could have been for those three type of guys. Obviously, we talked about Kyron in our sell high video, um, and how much value you could have gotten for Kyron. But you're going after a quarterback in a super flex league; it's going to cost you, especially a
Yeah, I
top,
mean,
8 quarterback.
I think I'm with you. I don't mind it, but could you have instead maybe gone to like the back of that Brock Purdy tier, right? Like you said, like a perfect example was Jared Goff. Could we have maybe paid a little bit less and got Jared Goff where the production is not, crazy different and you don't have to give up as much. But yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind it. So Bogey in the building. What up, Bogey? Diaz, what
Bogey,
up, Diaz?
Bogey, how you feeling, man? How you
Yeah,
doing,
how are you?
Bogey? You all right there, bro? Good to see you chime pop in, show us a pulse.
Picked up Nico in 2 leagues for a late first and a second pick and a second. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good
Yeah, Nico's going to be damn good for a while.
take, Nico. Yeah, Dak Goff, Russ, Caleb, CD, Amon-Ra, Olave, Ayuk, Dell, Higgins, Brees, Pollard, Ramondre. RBs appear to be my weakness. Just not sure who to buy or give up. I mean, I wouldn't say RB's your weakness. You got Brees Hall. I mean, that's pretty much all you need. You have that anchor guy, and you're just filling in the second slot with guys like Pollard, Ramondre, Kamara. Now, I would say, like, having all 4 of those guys, I mean, but guys getting hurt, like, I'm fine with that, but you probably don't even need that. Like, can you, down tier from a Kamara to some kinda like a Chase Brown type, and just pick up an asset on top and then roll with the other guys, like, because you don't need really all 4. You're not gonna be playing all 4 every time. So can you somehow, like, gain some kinda leverage in between there with some of those guys? But yeah, I think you're fine. You're not there's no reason to be going crazy for a RB2 right or a high-end RB1 at your RB2 slot right now,
I
like,
agree. I agree.
you got
To
CD
give
and
up
you
that
got
much
Amon-Ra and you
assets.
got Olave and you got Ayuk and you got Dell and you got Higgins, like, you're killing at the other slots, so I
To be
wouldn't do
honest
that.
to be honest, Ryan, if you really wanted, you can upgrade your quarterback situation, right? Package Goff and one of those other, and maybe go get
Mhm.
yourself Joe Burrow to go with Dak. Like, I would you trade Goff and Kelsey and go get Joe Burrow? I'd do that.
Mhm.
He still got
Yeah,
Kittle,
you got a
Ferguson.
ton
Like,
of
I'd do
assets.
I'd do that. Go get one of
Yeah.
those value, like go get Justin Herbert if you can, right? He's not he didn't come off a great season. He's hurt. Like trying, I think for you, Ryan, that would be the better option to focus your assets on is to go tier up from Jared Goff, try and go get a
Mhm.
Burrow or a Herbert, somebody that's maybe valued a little bit less, especially with the rookies coming in. We talked about, if you haven't seen our last video on quarterbacks, some of those tier 2 guys that might have a little bit of questions or might be a little undervalued at this point. If you add Joe Burrow to this team and you trade Goff and Kelsey, I feel fantastic about that, or Herbert even.
I'm with that. I'm with that. That's a better way to go about it, I think. Done any startups yet? No, I got one, I think, starting in a week or 2, I think. I got in one of Huss's, super flexes, not IDP, try to get in one more. I got 2 of the
No,
IDPs already.
we got to get the our subscriber league 2 should be popping off soon as well. So if anybody's interested, I don't know how many spots we have. I'll actually check right now. I'm on Sleeper.
Just maybe
We
like
should
2 or 3 spots
yeah.
that we got left in there. But do we wanna draft now with the rookie picks or just wait until everything is ready, said and
I
done?
mean, I would prefer to wait till after the draft, but just saying that, we still need to fill those spots. We weren't able to get this bad boy rolling, last year. So we definitely want to make sure we get that league filled and we get everybody rolling.
Besides, Chargers, where we like to see Bowers.
It's
Hold
interesting.
on, let me pull up the
I got
draft order real quick.
the mock. Oh, so the mock. Oh, where is it? Why can't I?
Chargers, Giant I could see the Giants. I could see the Jets.
Yeah, the Jets need O-line help though. I don't know if
I
they'll
could
reach
see
for a tight
yeah,
end.
yeah, I mean,
Mm,
I'm just going down the list here of, like, who can possibly I mean, Denver, New
Denver,
Orleans. Does he
I
fall
agree.
to, like, a New Orleans?
It's
Indy may
currently slotted at 5 to the
I wouldn't
Chargers.
love Indy, but
I wouldn't mind that.
Seattle.
The Chargers just feel like a really, really good spot. Like Bowers could be Sam Laporta in
Can he fall to
2024.
Cincinnati? I
Cincinnati
don't
would
know if
be
he'll fall that
wild.
far.
To 18, maybe not.
I've
Maybe
s
Cincinnati
I've s
trades up.
I've seen a lot of Brian Thomas to Cincinnati, which makes a ton of sense. I mean, I just don't think he falls, like, any further down than that.
I don't think he first falls further than 10, honestly.
That's the thing,
12,
like, if
I'd be shocked.
that's the thing. I would be shocked if he falls to New Orleans, but that seems like a good spot. But if he goes before that, I mean, I don't think Tennessee's taking him.
No, Atlanta,
I could
no.
possibly see the Giants, even though they need help in other places. I mean,
They need a
Atlanta's not
receiver.
doing it.
No, the
Chicago's
Bears,
not doing it. They got
the
Komet signed.
Jets, maybe, but they need O-line help with the Jets. The Jets can't afford to take a tight end with a top 10 pick. They can't. Would they? I don't know.
Minnesota's not doing it. Denver, maybe.
The Chargers feel like a really good spot.
Yeah,
Seattle, 16.
maybe.
Cincy, man. Cincy
If
would
he
be
gets all the
awesome.
way down there, I mean, Caleb, appreciate you, Caleb. Appreciate you,
Yes,
dog.
sir.
Stop crying, Bogey. That's
Oh,
right. If it wasn't a
man.
49er fan, it was a really entertaining Super Bowl. We got everything we wanted, including overtime. They just were the better team. At least you can admit that. That's Gucci.
There
I
weren't any there weren't
told you
really
Purdy ain't taking you
any
over the top.
there weren't really any game-changing, like, calls or any the only controversy is Kyle Shanahan accepting the kick in overtime. Like,
True.
that was the really the biggest, kind of, uh, controversy in the game, which I'm happy to see because if you remember last year, with Kansas City and Philadelphia, there was like that holding call on the DB in the end zone, like that kind of mucked it up a little bit. So I'm really happy that there weren't any controversial penalties in the game that affected it. It was a pretty clean game for the most part.
Illegal man, yeah, yeah, illegal man downfield on the TD in overtime wasn't called. 10-second runoff. Niners win, but whatever. This is what has been being a Niners fan. I'm faithful no matter what.
Mhm.
They would have
Hey,
continued the
listen.
overtime. They said if they
Yeah,
didn't
would have
score
went
the
into the
tutty,
next
it would
quarter.
have went
Yeah.
into the next. So Chargers
Hey,
aren't
listen,
drafting Bowers that early. Yeah, I mean mid-teens to early 20s. DS said that's kind of where we were looking, where we kind of stopped right after like
Cincy?
Cincy. I mean Miami at 21. Eh. Golf teams start 10, 2-point tight end. First 7 picks. Burrow. First 7 picks. Burrow 24, 1.2. Guy with 1-1 hasn't grabbed a QB yet. Olave, London, Kincaid, Young, Jacobs. ADP is kind of wonky currently. Hold on. What? First 7 picks. So we are what, in the 7th round, I'm guessing? Guy with a 101 hasn't grabbed a QB yet. Olave, London, Kincaid, Young, Jacobs is on the board, I'm guessing. Can't be the 7th round. I don't know. Hold on.
Trying to look and see,
Kev, give
like
me more,
breaking.
Kev. Did I miss it? I don't see it. No, no. Finish the question out there, man. When you get a chance, this way I can answer it. I don't see a question in there. Just, but yeah, let me know, Kev. It was the right thing to do, accept the ball after winning the coin toss in overtime. You would think that it's the right thing to do, but both teams get a possession. So, like, the advantage goes to, like, that second team knowing what they have to do. They could keep going for it on 4th down, right?
That's the key. The key is what I've been saying, where if you when you accept the ball first, you're virtually playing a regular game, right? But when you get into those 4th down situations, it's not an automatic go for it, as opposed to when Kansas City got the ball, they had 4 downs. That's an advantage. Like, you don't have to, you don't, not to say you don't feel as much pressure because you're down 3 or whatever, but that extra down can't be undersold and underrated over the course of driving down the field. So it is an advantage in that situation to go for to receive the ball second, and you know what you need to get.
Mhm. For sure. I was standing next to Gronk. Google it. Brock looks like the intern. Gronk tells to write something on a social media account.
Oh, it's funny.
Yeah, a lot happened. A lot happened in that game. I mean, Brock played well. He just
It
didn't
was
play
he was
like
okay. He
he
wasn't.
didn't play
He,
great, but
but that isn't that doesn't that go back to something you said where they need a special. I don't want to say special quarterback because Brock has been really good. I don't want to hate on Brock Purdy, but they need a guy to take them to the next level. You know what I mean? And we were talking about this before, is you could you could drop 8 or 10 other guys in that situation and feel like they can go toe to toe with Mahomes. And he did, as a result of the score. But is Brock Purdy's better than Jimmy G? There's no argument about it, right? I'm not
Mhm.
going to argue that he's way better than Jimmy G. But from a San Francisco organization, it's the net result hasn't changed. And if you're San Francisco with all this talent, if you're San Francisco with all of this, you're gonna have to pay all these guys. Like, all these guys aren't gonna be on this team forever. So do you get over the hump? Right. And this was a tough way to lose. I'll be honest. If I was a San Francisco fan, I would have been You wouldn't have saw me for like a couple of weeks, honestly. So
Oh man. 7th round. Okay, that was his first 7 picks. Hold on. All right. Okay, I think I see it now. So you got Burrow, you got the rookie pick 1.102. The guy with the 101 hasn't grabbed the QB yet, so most likely he'll grab Caleb, which leaves you with Marvin Harrison Jr., if I'm reading this correctly. So Olave, London, Kincaid, Bryce Young, Jacobs. Okay. You got
Olave
Marvin in
worries
there.
me. Olave, that the wide receivers worry me a little bit, but if Olave can actually be consistent as your wide receiver one, you feel okay about that. Um, I need a little more consistency out of him, but pretty solid.
London. Only pick I don't like really is the Jacobs pick. Like I don't know what wide receivers are around right there, but probably would have went wide receiver or even rookie pick. I don't know what rookie pick you're up to.
Think he has some options down. He has it up here. Would you pick an 8? Pickens, Ridley, Cousins, Njoku? Think
Mhm.
those are his like pretty much options at that point.
Pickens, Ridley, Cousins, or Joku.
I mean, let me see what we had before. I think he
I
picked
would,
a tight
I mean,
end.
I would just fuck, man. I'd probably just go Pickens on just the value of him himself
Yeah, you
compared
don't
to
need to pick another
Brady.
tight end for a while.
I definitely wouldn't go Joku.
No,
Cousins.
I don't think the value is there yet.
I mean, you could go Kirk. But the thing is, if you go Kirk, you're gonna have to start filling your team with some vets now. I mean, which you could pretty much start doing at this point. I mean, you got Olave, you got London, you got Kincaid, you got Burrow, so you've got some guys that you can build around. I wouldn't be crazy opposed to going. It's too early for that. I think. I don't know. I still probably take Pickens. Kirk is interesting. Maybe can you get him in the next round? You think?
Could be a
Because
run on
that at least
quarterbacks
gives
going.
you
That's
like
why he
a guy that you can. Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably go Pickens if you want to choose between those. Gotta let the defense get rest. Yeah. So it was a good game, but Brock didn't lose it, but he didn't win it either. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And you could see sometimes when they brought that pressure, he just kind of threw it and turned his ass away.
turn. Yeah,
But
I think that's the arm strength that comes into play because if you're able to stand in there and fire some of those passes,
oh,
with
no, he'll stay
velocity,
in
they're
there.
able to get there. But
He'll stand in there, but some of those big like third downs where it's like the ball just went into the ground like a bunch of
mhm,
times. Some of those big third downs.
it was a really good game. I
Defense
mean,
defense was
uh,
awesome. I mean, but they said that was the same exact play they ran last year to win it.
yeah, yeah. I forgot what they called it. There was a name for it. I don't know why it's slipping my mind.
Even if the play style doesn't involve his leg. I mean, for QB, it's totally different. The Achilles. This guy is not mobile like that. I mean, he's he's a he's a gunslinger. He's not a guy that's just going to throw the ball 25 times a game. Like he's going to be in
40,
an offense that's
35,
throwing the
40.
ball, a ton. So I'm not as crazy worried about the injury for the
Yeah, for
QB.
sure.
I mean, I know he's older too. There's a risk, of course. That's why I don't want to take him in that round. I'd want him on my team if you can grab him late because he's rolling with Bryce Young, I think, as a second QB. So if he plans on trying to win it this year, like you can grab Kirk at a certain point. But let's get into some of these tight ends. Let's talk about these tight ends.
Yeah, buddy.
All right. So Dynasty tight end rankings. Who do we got up in tier one? So tier one is going to consist of course, like Sam Laporte has got to be up there, right? Then we've got Trey McBride, we've got Hawkinson, and we've got Andrews. And I feel like they're just all kind of together. You can mix it any way you want. You can put the two younger guys, Laporte and McBride, up top. I mean, Hawkinson's hurt right now, so if you want to put him behind Andrews, that's fine as well. But these are all guys that are scoring points as well as that have a lot of years left to play. I mean, none of these guys are crazy old,
No,
right? Maybe
I
Mark
think
Andrews
Andrews is the oldest one.
is the oldest, but so they're all relatively young. You've got Sam Laporta, who broke records, obviously, this year doing his thing. Trey McBride, who started getting a shit ton of targets once Kyler Murray came back. Are they going to draft a wide receiver? Possibly. Is that going to affect the targets that he gets? Probably not. The way that him and Kyler kind of have that connection, and there's no one else really there. So I
And
think
we've
like a
seen
Marvin Harrison only helps. A Neighbors only helps like Trey McBride. So I really do like Trey McBride because if you look at the targets that he was getting, like if you add them up over the 17 games, it would have been like 140, 150 the amount of targets that he would have got. So
yeah, yeah.
again, Hawkinson coming back from injury, Andrews coming back from injury as well. But those are guys that we've seen, some crazy productive seasons from as well. So that just is the tier one for me. So like I said, mix and match it kind of how you want. But I feel like that's kind of the solidified top four-ish. And you could argue Kincaid as well. I was kind of
That's where
unsure
I was
whether to
gonna go.
throw him in the back of this tier or like start off the second tier.
I think
So
starting off tier 2 is I
I
feel
have
more
him starting
comfortable.
off tier 2. He can easily climb to tier 1. I mean, easily, but for now, I think we can slot him right in there in that tier 2-ish. But yeah, what do you think about some of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously, I've been a really big Sam Laporta guy since we knew, he was going to be in the draft, and even more of a Sam Laporta fan once I knew he was going to Detroit, considering the offensive skill guys they have around him. And the guy didn't disappoint. And to your point, when you were talking about Trey McBride, I think the interesting thing is that the wide receiver helps the tight end, right? Because Amon-Ra St. Brown, you can't tell me he doesn't help Sam Laporta be as productive as he is. Now, obviously, they have Gibbs and they have other guys on that team. Jared Goff kind of makes it go, but I think a really good wide receiver or a profile type wide receiver one only helps your tight end because they're not going to roll the coverage his way mostly like they have been doing with Kelsey, right? Because Kelsey didn't have a wide receiver one type guy. You saw it. They can start to roll that coverage Kelsey's way and kind of take him out of the game. So yeah, I don't have too much of an issue. I do want to see Trey McBride have a fuller, consistent season, like a full stretch of the season, like we saw
For
pretty much.
sure.
Obviously, Laporta and then Andrews and Hawkinson have a resume to stand on, and that's why they belong in that tier. So I do want to see Trey McBride kind of over the full course of the season. And if they draft Marvin Harrison, he could be really productive. But Trey McBride definitely surprised me with a ton of his. And once they also, when Kyler came back, they released Zach Ertz, right? So that opened up Trey McBride as the featured tight end in that offense. So I think all the kind of things necessary for Trey McBride to break out in the latter half of the season was there. But I'd put Trey McBride last just because I want to see a full complement, a full season of consistency from him. I've seen that from those three guys ahead of him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we always got to be a little bit early, right? We
Yeah,
can't
that's
always be
fair.
too late. But McBride was a good prospect. We knew he was going to be the guy after Ertz. Like we knew that was going to happen already. He was a sleeper guy, a stash guy to hold on to coming into this season. And then finally he got his chance and we saw what he can do now, with Kyler Murray. I mean, you don't just fall upon 9, 10 targets a game as a tight
For
end.
sure.
Like he's
For
getting
sure.
wide receiver volume. Um so, I'm confident in him going forward, but I can definitely understand to put him behind these other two guys because of the production, that you're going to get out of those guys. But McBride has a little bit of age advantage there. Kincaid leading off the second tier to go along with my boy. We're gonna keep beating that drum of Kyle Pitts, and I could even make the argument to throw these guys even in the back because I think like any one of the like if Kincaid has some kind of killer top 3 season or Pitts has a killer top 3 season, they're vaulted up here now. Like anything can happen with these guys, but I do put them in tier 2 here along with Travis Kelce,
Yep.
along with Evan Ingram,
Yep.
along with George Kittle.
Yep.
So we've got some young potential in this tier that can vault up into that tier 1 pretty easily. And then we've got some older vets in this tier that are going to give you the production right now. So this is what I've got for tier 2. We talked about Kincaid a little bit. Does he take that next step up, right? In that Buffalo offense where there's nobody else really there other than Diggs at the moment. Kyle Pitts, we know what he can do. We know that he had that 1,000-yard season, that rookie season. Only one other tight end in history has done that. And if you look at some of Kyle Pitts' numbers, like even right now, this season, and we know it wasn't like a great season for him, but he was third in slot snaps, first in air yards, first in air yard share, first in A dots, first in deep targets, first in unrealized air yards. Like he has some good metrics. I mean, average cushion efficiency, like there's a lot of things that are looking good for him. It just hasn't all came together. And he was coming back from the injury that was actually a lot worse than what we initially thought. That was kind of like hidden all season. So without Arthur Smith there, does he get unlocked? I mean, we know what the potential could be there. So I do like me some Kyle Pitts, which is why I have him there. Kelce, older guy, is the writing on the wall. Is he going to start to decline? We saw that this year with the nagging injuries. Does that continue, or does he become what he has been for the last few years that we've seen? How much longer does he have? He did mention something in the press conference talking about what did he say? He said there's a lot more. Fuck, I forgot what he said, but basically he almost hinted like he doesn't have much time left. There's not much time left for him.
He knows.
Ingram,
Yeah.
over 100 catches, which like nobody saw.
Tight end too.
Nobody really realized that he had, what do you have, 110?
114.
So 114 catches for Ingram, which kind of went under the radar because he didn't really score a ton of tutties. He started scoring a few at the end, I know. And then we got George Kittle, who, again, a little bit older, gets banged up a little bit. Offense is kind of here and there. He's going to be a little uneven. He's going to have good games. He's going to have bad games, but he can have those killer games like you always mention. I know you love some George Kittle, but this is
I
the
do.
tier here for tier 2. What do you think about this tier and some of these guys?
Yeah, so I think with Kincaid, we kind of saw the flashes, right? When he first came in, when Dawson Knox got hurt for those 4 games and he was on IR, Kincaid came in and we were kind of waiting to see what he could do. And he jumped off the screen like he was making plays. He caught a couple of touchdowns and we saw that he could be a go-to target. He could essentially be the number 2 target on that team going into next year as it currently stands. We don't know what Buffalo's going to do in the draft or free agency. I believe Gabe Davis is a free agent. So I really do like Dalton Kincaid, and kind of we've seen what he can do. And it's going to be up and down pretty much with any tight end. You can't expect crazy consistency. I know Sam Laporta may be the outlier here, and then Kelce in the past, but with all these guys, there's going to be up and down games because virtually every tight end, really outside of Kelce, is not the true number 1 target on any given offense, right? If any of these offenses, they all have pretty much number 1 wide receivers. We talked about Trey McBride. If they get Marvin Harrison, you got to imagine he's going to be the number 1 receiver on that team. So that's really an interesting thing. Kyle Pitts, I know that's your guy. The Atlanta situation is just so weird. And at what point do you say, meh, he's just another guy? Like, at what point do we get to that time? I'm not saying we're there yet. And he is incredibly young. I think Gavin in the chat said he's incredibly young. He's 23 years old. Like,
23.
I
So
get it.
we got
I get it.
time.
I get it. I totally get it. But they need a quarterback. Like, I don't feel good about their quarterback situation right now, right? We don't know what they're
So,
gonna
are
do.
are we gonna wait until the quarterback situation fixes and then
That's
Kyle
fair.
Pitts is valued incredibly high, or are we going to just bite the bullet right now, deal with the mediocre production that, is gonna do okay for you, and then just reap the benefits in the long run? Or do you wanna wait and then at that point it's too late, like, once they do
No,
get a
the way
QB?
the way you look at it is definitely the right way for his specific situation. I totally agree with that. The real question is, would you rather have an Evan Ingram where you know who his quarterback is, you know the production you're going to get right now? Evan Ingram obviously significantly older, not crazy old, 29, so there is a significant gap there, but just incredibly incredibly productive? Or would you rather have Kyle Pitts and the upside and hope that Atlanta figures it out at the quarterback position? So I think that's the bigger question for me, but I definitely understand where you're coming from in terms of you want to get before it, right? You want it to happen. You want to pick him up at a relatively good value, and then they get the quarterback, and then there's more value than what you drafted him at. So I definitely understand that situation. Kelsey, listen, Kelsey's Kelsey. We've talked about Kelsey for a couple of years now, where if you have him, he's virtually going to die on your team for the most part, right? Unless you're able to pick up like a Dalton Kincaid in last year's draft, or a Jake Ferguson or somebody like that you kind of have waiting in the wings. So Kelsey's going to die on your team. He's amazing. He's still going to be a top 5 tight end next year, in my estimation, where he could finish, just because he is such a focal point and he's got Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback. Evan Ingram is the real surprise here. And I think probably the best value pick at tight end, out of this past season, comparing to where you got him, and he finished as a tight end 2 in full PPR. And then my boy George Kittle, man. Listen, I've been a fan of George Kittle for quite a while now, but he will frustrate you. Like you said, there's no arguments there, but he can win you a week here and there. He can win you a week or two during your fantasy season from the tight end position, where he catches 6 passes for 95 yards and multiple touchdowns. Like, he's capable of doing that. So he's definitely a needle mover there. And listen, if they don't re-sign Ayuk, maybe that opens up Kittle a little bit more for this upcoming season. But I think they're slotted pretty right because of the age, because of who they play with, factoring all those things that we talk about, especially from the tight end position. And listen, all these guys are athletes and pass catchers, right? We're not talking about some blocking tight end that catches 40 passes a year. All these guys are pretty much top tier tight ends that are pass catchers in their respective offenses.
And of course, it's gonna depend on your situation, right? If you're trying to win right now, like, yeah, you might want Evan Ingram over Kyle Pitts, right? But
Yeah.
depending on your
Yeah.
team makeup, if you construct your roster, correctly, like, you could live with Kyle Pitts at tight end. Do you wanna go get Evan Ingram? Like, he's pretty cheap, like, nobody wants him for whatever reason. 100 and whatever catches, and still nobody basically wants him just because of his age, but he's gonna give you fantasy production. So if you are trying to win right now, if you are in that win now mode, of course, you're gonna want Evan Ingram over Kyle Pitts, just like if you're in rebuild mode, you're gonna want Kyle Pitts over Evan Ingram. So, depending on your team situation, obviously, that's gonna depend on who you want there. Let me answer some of the questions here, and then we'll get back to this. Half a season, I don't know, McBride. McBride was a good prospect, but, yeah, you can't sleep on McBride. I mean, those targets are no joke. Pitts over Kincaid, I'm fine with that. The reason why I have Kincaid over Pitts is just based on the offense currently and the quarterback, right? The upside is just higher for Kincaid right now at this moment and future outlook. So that's the only reason why. Otherwise, I'd have Pitts higher, but Joku. So Joku's going to be in the next tier, and I'll get to him in a second here. But the reason why I can't put Joku in that particular tier is because Joe Flacco, unfortunately, is not going to be the quarterback.
Oh, that's funny.
What's up, Jonathan? Considering getting Brees, okay, 24,208 and the 24,209 for the 24,102 and the 24,104. Brees, the 208 and the 209 for the 102 and the 104. So you got to give up the 102 and the 104. Your roster is Gibbs,
Uh,
Wilson, London, Laporta, Dell, Sutton, Watson. No. One all right, it's one
e
QB. Hold on.
but even still, yeah.
It's one QB. It's a 10-man.
I don't think you need to get Brees, though, if you're giving up
No.
that much value. The 102 and the
No.
104, I don't care if it's a one-quarterback league. That's still Bowers, Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze. Like, that's still value there, even in a one-quarterback 10-man. There's still that 102 and that 104, I don't think is worth giving up to get a running back, even as good as Brees Hall. And you already have Gibbs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with moving the 1-4, but the 1-2 I'd rather have almost. Like that is gonna be Neighbors. I don't love it even in a 1 QB. It is a 10-man, so I mean that does change it a little bit. Like Brees is gonna be more valuable than, the Odunze or Bowers at the 104 if you've got
I
Laporta.
agree,
So,
but
even the Neighbors. I don't wanna give up the 102. Like, can I just give up I'll give up anything else with the 104. I mean, I don't even care about the 209 and the 208. Like, can you just do, like, the 104 and something for Brees? Like, add on to the 104, I think would be my best thing. Can I give up the 104 and Christian Watson and get Brees? Can I give up, the 104 and mm, I don't know.
Dell, you might have to move it. The
No?
104 and Dell,
Maybe you
you
get the
might have to
second
do.
back with that. I'm okay with that, I guess. It is a 10-man, so you want those like, I just rather have Neighbors. I don't care about those seconds if I'm trying like, I just wanna keep the 102. Like, is it possible to just do it with the 104? I was shopping the 104 only. Yeah, I would try and keep the 102 if I can. RBs are trash outside of Gibbs. I feel you. And a 10-man, like it is more important. I do understand that. So like I'm fine with going to trying to get Brees, but I don't think I want to give up the 102 also. Might give up the 102 straight up just for Brees. 'Cause then it's just a matter of like, all right, you want Brees or Neighbors? And then can you move up from the 104 to go get the 103 or I don't know, 101? Oh, you got a few options there. Got a few options there. All right, let's get into the next tier here. We do got Njoku leading off this tier, along with Cole Kmet, along with Jake Ferguson, along with Goddard. Who else I got in here? Along with Michael Mayer and
Ooh,
Freiermuth. This is a kind of
okay.
a big tier. This is a big tier here. Because I feel like they are all almost relatively similar,
The
right?
same.
Njoku, as I said before, does not have Flacco throwing him the football anymore, right? That is a big difference. Do they still continue to get him involved? Sure, but I think he's more of like a 5 to 10-ish tight end, right? Cole Kmet has consistently finished in the top 10. He's just a back end tight end 1 every single year. Jake Ferguson on the good offense. He's gonna finish in the top 10, 12. Goddard, same kind of thing, but he's always been injured. He hasn't finished
Mhm,
kinda in that top 10.
mhm.
So, can he stay healthy? That's my worry
As
about
he's getting
him
older.
because he's getting older as well, right? And then you've got some other guys on that offense, a team that doesn't throw the ball a ton. You've got Michael Mayer, who bad situation, but we know the prospect that he is. We know that he can play. We know he's a great tight end, and he's a young tight end. And then I've got Fryermuth in there as well, who was solid his first 2 seasons. Obviously, not great of what's going on there lately in Pittsburgh, but he's going to be a free agent after next season. So there's a possibility he can go elsewhere. Hot take is that Freiermuth goes to Kansas City once Kelsey's possibly done.
Oh,
One more year, do they go out and get like a Freiermuth? He can move, he can run, he can play in that slot, like he can
still
catch.
relatively young. Yeah,
He's still
25.
relatively young. I think that would be a good kind of fit, and obviously that's best case scenario. But Freiermuth's a guy that can play, and I think that even if he's not on the Steelers, he's going to go somewhere where he can produce. So, and we've seen that from him. So that rounds off this particular tier. I do feel like they're kind of all kind of mushed together. They're all kind of back end tight end ones, basically. So mix them how you want, but I feel like they're all kind of mushed together. But yeah, what do you think about this particular tier here and these players?
Yeah, similar to the running back position, like tight ends, once you drop pretty much get out of that tier two, it's kind of you can mix and match however you want. I know a lot of people tend to stream tight ends in a lot of leagues. If you don't have one of those top really four guys in that tier one category, obviously you could throw Kelsey in there as well. So a lot of people tend to stream tight ends on a week to week basis if you don't have a top six ish guy, top eight ish guy. So there's really two guys who stand out here for me anyway, and it is Jake Ferguson because he is on a really good offense with a really good quarterback that throws the ball a ton. And then it's Michael Mayer. I love the prospect. I felt similar to him about as I did about Sam Laporta as a prospect, but I thought Sam Laporta would be more productive right away just because he was in a much better situation. But I think Vegas with Antonio Pierce, I think they have the right foundation in place from a head coaching scheme kind of standpoint where I think Michael Mayer will be a lot more productive in year two. And listen, I think Sam Laporta spoiled us all because we've talked about, and Dalton Kincaid to a lesser degree, because how often do we talk about the tight ends? And it's like, bro, these guys normally don't break out to that year three, year four type of thing because they also have additional responsibilities, blocking, line protection, protection schemes they have to know, all of those different things. So those tight ends usually don't break out from a fantasy standpoint until maybe year three, year four ish. So I think we got spoiled by Sam Laporta and, like I said, to a lesser degree, Dalton Kincaid. So those are the two guys I'm really honing in this particular tier is Jake Ferguson, like I said, because of the offense, who his quarterback is, and then Michael Mayer, just because I think he can be a really productive guy. If they could figure out and steady that ship at quarterback out there in Vegas, if they get a Russell Wilson, if they get a veteran guy, I feel a lot better about him scratching that top 12 um potential upside. But yeah, those are my two guys here, Ferguson and Mayer.
I feel that. Hold on. All right, let's get into the next tier here. I see someone said Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz leads off my next tier, and the only reason why I don't have him higher is because he doesn't have a contract. And if he stays on the Texans and he gets the contract, then yeah, he's gonna move up. Like I want any piece of that Houston offense that I can get. So yeah, Schultz will definitely move up if he gets the contract. But does he? We don't know yet, so it's still a little bit of a risk.
Yep.
Next, I got your boy Luke Musgrave.
Okay.
I got Kate Otten, and I've got Likely in this particular tier as well. So a little bit of a smaller tier here, but guys that can play, but there are some question marks. And Likely just obviously stuck behind Mark Andrews. Does he wind up going somewhere else sooner or later, or does he get traded? I do like Musgrave over Kraft, so that's why I have him there. And then we just spoke about Schultz. You want the tight end in that offense, but does he get the contract is the big question. I like Kate Otten as well, but in that particular offense with Baker Mayfield, he's not kind of peppering the tight end with targets. But Otten can play, when given the
Mhm.
opportunity. So yeah, what do you think about this tier 4 here and these players?
Dalton Schultz, clearly, if he remains on Houston, say they put him on a 2 or 3 year deal. Dalton Schultz is only 27. It feels like he's been around a lot longer than his age would suggest. So
Mhm.
Dalton Schultz, clearly, if he stays on the Texans, he has easily tight end one value, kind of in that mid tight end one. He could get into the top 10, with that offense and the way CJ Stroud's been throwing the ball. So I like where this is. The problem with the rest of these guys are obviously Musgrave is in a equal opportunity situation with Jordan Love, where there's no
Mhm.
clear kind of I feel like there's a different leading pass catcher every game for my Packers, every game. But Musgrave can play, and I like how they involve him. He could if Musgrave could get between 6 and 8 touchdowns next year, he has some really, really high upside. And I think with Jordan Love showing that he could throw the ball and find guys, especially down in the red zone, I think Musgrave, and also don't forget Musgrave got hurt. He was on the short-term IR this season, mixed in there. So his numbers are a little skewed, or else I think he would have been more productive. We saw what he did in the game against Dallas, where he caught that long touchdown. So yeah, so all these other guys outside of Dalton Schultz, there are some questions about, but Dalton Schultz here has the highest upside of any of these guys.
Yeah, for sure. And like the other reason why, like I don't know about Schultz is because there's a guy that I put in the next tier that I really like, that was a good prospect, and he kind of came along when he needed to. Was like Brevin Jordan. I mean,
Hmm.
he's a good kind of little sleeper that you can talk about, and I'll fill out this whole, I guess, kinda bottom tier here, but Brevin
When
Jordan,
Schultz was
he's
out,
still
yeah.
signed through next season, so do they not wanna pay Schultz and just roll with Brevin Jordan and then, see what happens from there? Or do they just sign Schultz? I know the easy thing to say is like, "Yeah, they're gonna sign Schultz because he played so well," but it's not so easy, it's not so black and white like that when it comes to the contracts and all that. So we'll see what happens there. But I've got Brevin Jordan down here. I've got Chig down here. I've got Kraft down here somewhere. And these are all guys that are like the bottomish tier. We don't kind of know exactly what's going to happen, but they're kind of the next guys that have opportunities to kind of move up in the rankings here. So you can throw Dolchich up there. And then I have like some sleeper guys like Jeremy Ruckert and Cole Turner down here. And then I wanted to talk about like where Waller fits in, and we'll talk about him in a second here. But these are the guys that I have on the bottom tier here, and then I have two rookies that we can kind of throw in there. But I mean, Chig just didn't turn out to like what we thought he was. Obviously, they have a QB situation there. Kraft, obviously, that dual tight end role with Musgrave. Dolchich, I mean, coming back from injury, does he come back in a way? Jeremy Ruckert, the young tight end, does he just get replaced over there, or is he that next guy up? We did see some flashes from him, so he's a kind of just a sleeper that I wanted to mention in the video, as well as Cole Turner there in Washington as well, with Logan Thomas getting up there. So, what do you think about this tier, Hammer?
Yeah, I think the guy that really stands out here for me is the guy leading off this tight end spot is Brevin Jordan. I mean, he was when Schultz was out, he was the hot pickup and he played pretty damn well, right? He jumped off your
Mhm.
screen. He was able to make plays for you. So I like Brevin Jordan as well. If they do not sign Dalton Schultz, I believe the Houston Texans have like $70 million in cap space. They're virtually not paying anybody on that team. So do they say, hey, listen, we'll kind of keep this core together with CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and we add in the veteran Schultz to kind of steady the ship? I wouldn't be opposed to that. But they could say, hey, listen, we'll turn it over to Brevin Jordan and then ride from there. But Brevin Jordan's very interesting. Tucker Craft, the problem is his upside is always going to be limited.
Mhm.
Right? Like, I think if he was a featured tight end on a team with maybe a wide receiver that was the go-to guy, I think Tucker Craft could be really good. But obviously, he's virtually 1A, 1B with Musgrave, and they have like 3 or 4 wide receivers that they could throw to at any time. Aaron Jones is probably coming back. So where Tucker Craft is in the pecking order is why he's down here so low, and I can't really disagree with it. It's not because of the talent, not because he can't play. It's just because of the situation he's in and the guy that he's surrounded by. But he's a fantastic tight end. When Musgrave was out, he played and it played very well. It's almost like they kind of mirror each other in a sense. So I totally agree with that. But I think Brevin Jordan, if Schultz doesn't come back, has the highest upside out of this group.
For sure. And then we've got like Waller. Where do we put Waller? I mean, Can't stay healthy, but he kinda gives you production. Like, does he sneak up into the back end 2, start a 3? I mean, where can we put a guy like Waller?
He would be at the end of 3 for me just because there's so many questions, right? Like you said, can't stay healthy. Where it's if he's on the Giants, you feel great about his prospects? Not really. I mean, at 31 years old, do we all of a sudden expect him to be healthy for an entire season? So,
He's signed, he's on the Giants. I mean, until 2027, he's a free agent.
yeah, but I'm not I'm not gonna lose my mind. 52 catches for 552 yards and 1 touchdown.
How many games he played this year?
That doesn't excite me. How many? I think he played 12, 13. Hold on. But it wasn't overly impactful.
I
Like
mean, he's already gonna be 32, and he
played
hasn't been
12,
able to stay what?
played 12
Played 12 games. He's already 32, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy for
the last 3 years.
the last 3 years. I feel like you can kinda throw him in, like, after a Goddard maybe as, like, a
I'd rather have
sneaky.
Mayer, I'd rather have Freiermuth, I'd rather
I
have
know,
Schultz, I'd
that's
rather
the
have
thing.
Kraft, I'd rather
This
have Likely, I'd rather have Otten. I'll be honest, I'd rather have Brevin Jordan, I'd rather have
I
all
thi
those guys.
man. I mean, the thing is when he plays, like, he gets work, he gets targeted. Um, Hold on, let me pull him up real quick.
Does 1 touchdown excite you?
Waller,
On
tight end. I mean, 14
20.
in points per game, 9.4 points per game. I mean, he's just another Jag at that point, even
Thank you.
still,
When you're tight end
Schultz was a point higher. I mean,
when you're finishing in
Ferguson,
the 20s
McBride,
at tight end, that's not where
Komet
you
was
wanna
2
be.
points higher. I mean, now granted, Giants offense was pretty trash, but,
Right.
so he's gotta be somewhere in the tier 3. He's gotta be. I think the back end of tier 3, like you
That's
said,
fine.
might be, like, the perfect kinda spot-ish to put him. You wanna put him ahead of Freiermuth for this year because we don't know what's gonna happen. I'm okay with that. You wanna take a one-year flyer with some upside over Mayer, like, I guess, but I think you're right. Kinda the back end of this tier is probably where he's gotta go.
Listen, I think we get enamored with a lot of the older guys that we've seen, like he's been dominant, like he had 2 dominant years. If I need to remind people that those dominant years were in 2019 and 2020. We are going into 2024. He's played a total of 32 games in the last 3 seasons. 32 in 3 seasons. So he's averaging almost 11 games a season. And when he's playing those last 3 games, he's not moving the needle. Like,
Mhm,
I could get way better value down here in this particular range. Like Cole Kmet, clearly a better value.
mhm.
Gronk, a better value. Goddard, a better value. Like all those guys, even Schultz, a better value.
Yeah, for sure. To
All of a
chill, you're gonna
sudden,
ruin Mayer's value.
all of a
Mixing
sudden in
him
his age 32 season, we're gonna expect him to play 16 games, 15,
no.
16 games. No.
Even if he does, it's still only like 9 points a game. It's still out of the top 12. Mixon and Boyd for the 101. QBs are Stafford, Lawrence, and Levis. Have Devontae, Amon-Ra, Jaden, Swift, Dylan, Kamara. I'd be getting the yeah, of course, I'm taking the 101. Mixon and
Smash that
Boyd.
right now before it
Mm,
goes away.
that's not even a question. Buy low on Kraft, cheapest part of Green Bay offense. Could be, could be,
I'm not mad at that.
could be. Tight end position
I am
has
not
0
mad at
tier
that.
ones. Yeah, I mean, could put a bunch of guys up there in that tier 1. Will average more points per game than Kincaid. Yeah, I mean, that's not really saying much compared to the rest of the world out there.
But I like Kincaid's
Kincaid,
upside way
Waller,
more.
actually, I don't know. I At least I see here 9.5 a game from Kincaid. Waller was 9.4.
I don't know. He might be in
And
half PPR or
maybe
standard.
that's I don't know.
Yeah, but
Waller,
Kincaid can
Kincaid. I mean, if you do it looking at half PPR, it's a .1 difference. I mean, they're relatively the same.
Kincaid had a stretch in there for about a month and change where he was no less than tight end 8.
Yeah,
So I'll take that. And Kincaid played every single game. Kincaid missed one game.
yeah, and he's young. He's in a great offense. Like, yeah,
And he's going to get better, you would imagine, with Josh Allen.
sure. Then we got the 2 rookies, right?
Yep.
We got Brock Bowers, who's like instantly going to be basically a top 5. Like, instantly he's going to go to the back end of the tier 1,
Mhm.
especially if he lands on like the Chargers. Like, I mean, woof. I mean, he could be
Cincinnati.
up there, but we'll put him in the back end tier of tier 1. We'll see where he winds up landing, but I think he can be anywhere kinda in between the back end of tier 1 and, like, the front end of this tier 2 here, depending on the draft capital, depending on the landing spot, and then you've got JT Sanders, who probably could go, like, after Pitts, depending where he goes. I mean, you could put him there, maybe put him behind some of the older guys, but I think he'll be somewhere in this tier 2, so that's kinda how I would slot it at the moment. But that's pretty much it for the tight end rankings and tiers. Let me know what you guys think. But that's what I got. I mean, pick what you want. After the first
8.
eight-ish guys,
Yep.
after the first eight-ish guys, there's that big kind of tier 3. So there are a lot more guys this year that are more, impactful than we've had in years past, right? Like we said
Agreed.
earlier, it used to be kind of those top few guys. Now there's more of like a 7, 8, 9. Like there's more tight ends now that are producing and producing early, you know?
Yeah, I think and that's what kind of excites me as well because it makes the drafts more interesting, right? Like if these tight ends are starting to elevate a little bit, like I don't think anybody is in that prime Kelsey territory yet, but if we have just this expanse of tight ends where, you basically got 1 through really 9 if you add in the rookie, if you add in Bowers, that expands it a little bit. Um you basically got 1 through 9, 1 through 10. Like if I had any of those guys in tier 1 or 2, you feel pretty good about that as just a set it and forget it at the tight end spot. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting time we're getting into with a bunch of productive and younger up and coming tight ends.
Mhm. For sure. I mean, I think Pitts is a good value at this point. Kincaid is another one. Like people aren't really extremely high on those guys. And then you have the guys that like nobody cares about, right? The Cole Kmets, the Fergusons, the Goddards, right? Nobody really cares much about those guys, so you can wait and grab one of those guys at the tight end position. I mean, we were
Hmm.
saying all last year to play Cole Kmet and Jake Ferguson from, like, week 1, and they both finished as top 10 tight ends, and all you had to do is play those guys every single week and just not worry about it. They're gonna give you some dud weeks, but they're also gonna win you some weeks. I mean, how many games did Cole Kmet have, like, 2 tutties?
Against me.
Mm. Oh, man. I mean, you just saw it all the time. I mean, he scored 6 tutties this season, he had 7 last season, right? So, tight end 7 in 2022, tight end 8 in 2023. We're hoping he gets a new quarterback that's gonna be passing the ball more, right? I mean,
Hmm.
so we'll see what happens from there, but, I mean, 719 yards on 73 catches, I mean, 90 targets. Does he see up to 100 possibly this year? Even still, like, I don't care. Give me the 90 targets, that's fine, whatever. Give me tight end 8. I'm fine with that.
And I think with the tight end position, like that warp thing that we use is a really good tool to use if you're trying to look for a tight end because of I mean, in the years past, it was usually a drop off after those top 3. It would be, Kelsey, Andrews, and Hawkinson, and then just a massive drop off. I don't think the drop off is as steep as it has been in years past because Kelsey obviously has taken a little bit of a step back production wise. And then and listen, Mark Andrews has been getting banged up a little bit, right? He has a little bit of injury concern. I know the injury was a freak injury on his ankle that came up, but he's, battling through some things. So, and then this young rookies and second year guys coming up make it very interesting where I don't think the drop off from after that third guy is as steep as it was in the couple of years past.
Oh, for sure. Like I said, like you can make the argument to even put Kincaid and Pitts like up in tier one, like as those young
Hmm.
guys, because all it's going to take is just one good season for those from those guys for them to be considered possibly as the tight end one, just like all these other guys. So, I mean, if Mark Andrews comes out and has another 1,300-yard season with double-digit tutties, I mean,
You gotta feel really good about it.
so yeah, I mean, we'll do wide receivers next week. I still got to work on. I didn't even finish my actual wide receiver rankings. Like that's a hard big glob after like the top 10-ish guys
It's
to
gonna be
kind of go
spicy
after
too. I
that.
like that.
So we'll get into wide receivers next week, and then we'll start talking rookies. But if you're not following us already on Instagram, make sure you go check us out, Dynasty Life Fantasy. I've posted my top 12 rookie wide receivers just recently and some sleeper guys to just kind of take a look at. Of course, we are very early in the process, so a lot can change, a lot will change. But I've kind of put out the guys that I like now as far as, the film, the where I see or how I see their strengths and weaknesses translating to the NFL, right? How is the NFL going to see them at the moment, or what kind of roles the NFL is going to see them in? Are they an early declare? When did they break out, right? How early was that breakout age? Like these are all things that we have to, look at when we are, looking at some of these guys, you know.
Yeah, buddy.
Dia says disappointed Smythe was snubbed. Yeah, whatever.
Nope.
Throw him in the tier 5 if you want. I don't care. Throw whoever you want in the tier 5 almost at this point.
Throw him in the just another guy.
Just throw him in. Just throw him. But yeah, I'll have wide receiver rankings coming out. I'll have rookie running back rankings coming out. I will have uh first round mock draft of just like who I would take. I'll have first round rookie draft. We'll do that and we'll start getting into that here as well as roster reviews. We're going to start up roster reviews again. I've got like 10 already.
Yeah, I can't wait to get
So
those
there's
rolling.
a ton of them. So we'll start getting into that. I've also made a Discord, so free Discord. Everybody can join the Discord, and I'll start sending that
Ooh,
out.
yeah.
I had somebody, one of our followers, help me kind of set up everything in there. So there's a couple different like pages. Like there's just a community talk.
Mhm.
There's super flex
I'm
trades, one QB trades.
That's
There's
beautiful.
a
I'm
lineup
familiar with Discord.
advice. There's a rookie talk section, and then there's a Patreon member section where we'll kind of get a little bit more exclusive, like more kind of things that we are kind of liking before we put it out. You kind of just get everything beforehand or get just extra insight.
Beautiful. That's how we do.
So we will get into that. Oops.
Mm, mm, mm.
Couple things happening with Brandon Ayuk. I don't know if you saw the kind of the headlines
I
there
I saw the
where
tweet, but I didn't get the full, like, what actually happened.
I think he wind up posting something, the brother and the girlfriend or something as well, but it really wasn't his brother, talking about, oh, like he's what got you there, and then he only has 3 catches in the Super Bowl, like, and Ayuk is saying like, go with what got you there, and basically saying like that was his last game. Like, I don't know if that is all gonna happen, but there is a scenario where, does Ayuk wind up going to some other place? I mean,
Yeah,
how does
there
that
is.
change his dynasty value? He is a top 10 dynasty wide receiver already compared to, what people think out there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kinda capped when you talk about his abilities on that offense with those other weapons and just the way that they run things and they have CMC. So, if he was to go to somewhere else, does that now open up, like, his real ability where we can see him now into that 1,500 yard, 1,600 yard kinda maybe double digit production on a better offense, right? On a better team.
Yeah, I depends on the situation, obviously, right? Buffalo, Kansas City, obviously, we're talking about Kansas City looking for a wide receiver. Now, how much would they have to pay? That would be interesting to see what his market actually looks like. But he's proven he's a really good wide receiver. And listen, no slight to Brock Purdy, but if he were to go to Buffalo or Kansas City, that would be an upgrade at the quarterback position. So can he vault himself, like you said, into that 1,500 yard double digit touchdown type air where now you're talking about Amon Ra, those type of guys where he could potentially slot in there.
Sure.
I'm actually already on Discord, because I
Right?
play a game, so I'm already on Discord.
I think I just sent you the invite. Did you get it? I texted it to
Yep.
you.
Yep.
Are you on Discord on the computer?
On my phone.
On your phone? I was gonna say, try and post a link in the chat.
I clicked the link, it didn't go through.
Hold on.
Oh wait, never
Yeah, it's
mind.
working.
Yeah, it went through.
You post it in the chat before we get out of here. Guys, throw any last second questions you guys got in the chat before we get up out of here.
Yeah, this is pretty dope. I like this. Another way to stay connected.
Um, all right, I should have got it. Let me post it. B. All right, guys, I'm posting a link here in the chat for the Discord. It is free, so join it if you like. I'm gonna post it on Instagram as well because as the community is getting bigger, my DMs are getting full. Like sometimes I got people sitting there for a day, 2 days. So I do apologize, but if we can keep everything together, we can have help from not only myself and Hammer, but the community, you guys out there. We can all have a
Mm-hmm.
discussion about things, insight, advice.
Fuck yeah, bro.
Yeah, Diaz, it should be in the chat there. Let me know. Yep, Diaz is in there. Nice. All right, cool.
Diaz, don't start no shenanigans in the Discord chat.
Diaz don't start no shenanigans. He ain't pop pipe.
I can't deal.
Oh shit. But all right, guys, we are about to get up out of here. Appreciate y'all. Hope you enjoyed the rankings. I'll edit it and post it as usual. So if you missed part of the show and you just want to hear the rankings and tiers part, you'll have that probably next week. And I'll drop the running back one, I think tomorrow. I edited all that, so it should be good to go for tomorrow.
Do
But
it.
anyways, we out. Peace.